Welcome to a couple reviews.
Today we're going to talk about Half-Life and the 2 expansions, Opposing Force and Blue Shift, as well as the original, if that wasn't clear.
Probably focusing on the original one and how the expansions either expand on it or fail to move past it.
Yeah.
They both do a little bit of both at certain points.
Yeah, they're both really different experiences, and they both do feel like expanding on the base. Quick background, as we always do, Half-Life came out in November of 1998.
It was Valve's first game, right?
Yes, I believe so. And it was published by Sierra Studios.
Mm-hmm. And I believe both the expansions are done by Gearbox.
Yes. So they're third party. It originally came out for PC, and then it came out in 2001 for PS2, and then in 2013 it came out for OS X and Linux. And continually as we do this, I think I see things that are released for Linux, and I think,
Why?
Obviously someone is still using Linux. I don't know them.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of people that use Linux for personal use. I think businesses still use Linux servers because they're completely free.
But why do they need Half-Life?
Because it's a pretty good game.
So, you play as the main character, Gordon Freeman, who you start the game going into work.
Yeah, it's one of the more cinematic openings of maybe any game, but especially for that time. I remember playing it. I think I got it probably around 2000, so it'd been out for a couple of years, but it still blew me away, the opening.
Yeah, you have obviously played this game. You've played it several times, I think, at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played the original Half-Life back in 2000 or so, and then about, 8 years after that or something, I played it again, and I played the 2 expansions, because I'd never played those before. Didn't even really know they existed.
And I've never played Half-Life. I'm aware of Half-Life because I'm aware of video games, and it's a massive, important game. Like, so many games, I think, kind of build on this style that it creates to some extent.
Yeah, I don't know how much impact the first game really had, because, I mean, it's exceptionally well done, but I think Half-Life 2 really
is the innovation.
It's definitely the one that people remember more out of the 2, even though I think 1 is quite a bit better.
Yeah, I guess when I hear people talk about Half-Life, 1 is like this masterpiece that you play once and like don't usually go back to. It almost seems like, unless you're going to speedrun or something. And then 2 is like super beloved in a different way.
Yeah, you can't really go back to 2 either. I think it has less replay value than 1.
Oh, that'll be interesting for when we get to it.
Yeah, that'll be one of the next games that we play because I'm hungry for more Half-Life now.
Which clearly bodes well for our review. This was my time playing Half-Life, as always, E in its control. Actually, I didn't have any control.
Mm-mm.
Which was
because it's not really
fine.
It's not really the type of game that you would enjoy playing anyway.
No, and there's no like dialogue options or choices to make. It's a very linear game as far as like you go here, you do this.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very linear. Mm-hmm.
Even though you get to really kind of roam around this entire facility and go outside, and there's floors that you're going, so it is a linear story. The gameplay isn't necessarily super linear
It's a linear progression.
Yes, yeah.
Which is almost a bad word these days for a game to be linear.
Yeah.
Because linear these days means like
boring.
Yeah, lazy, running down corridors. But you can have a game about running down corridors if the level design is impeccable and the pacing is great.
Yeah.
And I think Half-Life 1 does both of those well.
Yeah, and there's a sense of environmental storytelling as well as like the cutscenes and some of that stuff that you see where like you can follow blood trails to see what's going to happen, to see like what happened and what caused that, and just little things, little touches of this game that make the world feel more alive.
Mm-hmm. There's no real cutscenes. They're like scripted moments.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But you don't lose control of your character. I think the only one that you lose control of your character for is when Gordon's knocked out.
Yeah, which I mean, Gordon can't do anything anyway.
So that one is a cutscene.
I think that was one of that was like the first thing that struck me about this game is that you're going through this is not really a monorail. Is it a monorail system when you're first going into work?
It's a tram system.
Yeah, tram. And you're like the voice is talking to you and doing all its like garbling stuff about Black Mesa. They make sure you know that you're working at Black Mesa. They say it like 5 times in the opening. But you, the character Gordon Freeman, you can walk around the little tram area and look at things, and there's
a lot of world building to look at just as you ride the tram.
A lot crammed into it in that opening to really make you like understand where you are and feel out for the world. This was built on the Quake engine.
Was it?
That's what that's what Wikipedia said.
Yeah, I believe that. It's called the Gold Source engine. I've heard it referred to as that for the first Half-Life. So they must have taken the Quake engine and then like chopped and screwed it to make
I think it's a very I have it in quotes. It's a heavily modified version of the Quake engine.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about game design at that level to understand necessarily how you even work within an engine to make something so vastly different and stuff. So it's always super interesting to me when I know that like Unity is like one of the engines I know a ton of games are made in.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's because Unity is pretty inexpensive compared to a lot of the other engines and very flexible. You can make 2D games, 3D games, first person, third person, all type. Essentially, any type of game that you want to make, you can make it in Unity. It has some limitations, but not much.
Yeah. I don't know. I always find it interesting, even though I really don't have full understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently we played a version with updated models because we watched a speed run with you said what was the original models pre any kind of updates.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even think about it when I installed the game.
I neither.
With the modern Steam version, by default, you have the modern things. I think you can, under the options, change the models to the old versions, but I didn't even think about it. I think they both look good.
Yeah.
The old models definitely look...
older?
Well, yeah, they don't look as good for, fidelity-wise, but they are very nostalgic, so they look good, they're timeless. But the updated ones, I think, are very good as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't know either way until the speedrun, again, had the original. And that was the only time I was like, why do those soldiers look different? Because the guns look different, and you pointed that out, and I was like, yes, those are different guns. But then I saw, like, the soldier, and he was like a redhead guy.
Well, it's like a bandana on his head.
Oh, and you're right.
I don't think they're very different for the version we played, but yeah, I think you are right that they are different models.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them side by side.
I want to talk about some of the monsters in this game because I think head crabs are literally iconic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the monster design is incredible. Like every single one of them is great.
It feels very reminiscent of Alien, the franchise, not just Aliens, a category of possible existent beings.
Yeah.
Very like phallic in places. There's the one enemy that has like a hand coming out of their chest almost that looks super phallic to me every time.
A few of them have the third hand coming out of their chest, but you're probably talking about the Vortigaunts, the ones that shoot green electricity. Those are the Vortigaunts.
I'm thinking of the guys that look big buff guys.
Oh, the really big guys wearing armor that have the third hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the same placement as the Vortigaunts, and I don't know what those things are called.
I don't like it. I don't like them. Phallic.
Maybe even intentionally so, because there are interviews with Gabe Newell, who was one of the creative leads for Half-Life 1, and obviously 2 and beyond.
And now, like, the head of Steam.
And, yeah, now...
Valve.
Big boy Valve. Where a lot of the alien designs were intended to be a lot more overtly sexual in a frightening way. I think one of the quotes is he wanted to make things that were very scary to 14-year-old boys.
Other
maybe
penises
16-year-old boys or some quote like that. And
he did it.
Yeah.
I'm not a 16 or 14-year-old boy, and I never have been, but I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. But other than those, just like the head crabs, like you said, are iconic.
I love them.
They're like a perfect character design.
They're kind of like from far away, they're kind of cute, and they have 4 legs, 2 front, 2 back, and they'll kind of like lift up their front and jump at you, and they're kind of cute. But
the
then,
animations are what make them so cute.
yes, but then if you get up close, you see like their gross underbelly thing, and I'm like,
they
not cute.
They really are nightmarish up close.
Yeah.
The barnacles, I think, are very, very iconic. I see that you're not.
What are the barnacles?
The barnacles are the ones that they're like a big fleshy mouth that looks like a barnacle that they cling to the ceiling and they put down that long tongue that sticks to you.
Those feel iconic too.
They're more like hazards than enemies, but they're clearly alive, very organic, but they function different than a regular enemy.
Yeah, I think another one of my favorite enemies are these little things that kind of look like dogs.
Yeah, I wish I knew what those were called. With the resolution of the enemies, it's hard to tell sometimes what's what up close, but it looks like they have a giant compound eye.
Oh.
That's what the front of their head looks like, a big compound eye.
Is that what it is? I thought it had mouth stuff. Don't they? No, I'm thinking.
I don't think they do
else.
have a mouth.
You're right. Yeah.
And the way they attack too is they run up and then they like vibrate and shoot out a shockwave. And just like every single thing in this game, the sound effects.
The sound design is incredible.
Yeah. The sound effects are incredible. The sound design, like the mixing.
The sound mixing is bad.
It's so bad. Everything is so much louder than the speech in that game.
I tell you, I consistently had to ask Ian what they fucking said. Yeah. I'm as close to the speakers and TV as you are.
It's a problem because
there's no subtitles.
Well, yeah, which is not that surprising for that era of game. But all the sounds are tied to or not all the sounds. I think the music is set to a different slider, but all the sound effects in the game,
including
like
the voice
guns
acting.
Firing and the voices and everything, are the same slider.
And I feel like that's a weird option because the gunshots had to be so loud for us so that we could even understand what they were trying to tell us. What I did think was interesting, and I don't know if this is a thing that modern games do, but when the people are talking, if you're close to them, they're much louder, and if you walk away, they fade. So it's tied to that character in a real physical way.
Yeah, I actually don't know what that's called. It's like stereo sound, but it's not just stereo sound. It's like directional sound. Modern games do that all the time.
I liked it a lot.
I think it was the first game that I ever experienced that did that, though. And they do it maybe even too much.
Yeah. If you walk a little bit away, especially with how everything else is, it is... you have to be right up with them.
Yeah.
You got to be having that conversation.
But still, it is good and I like it.
Oh, it's very good. We had, I would say we also had some monsters that really were frustrating or upset us. The ninja women were...
They're
so fast.
I like them.
I like how they're very stylish. They're very sleek.
They feel so out of line for what you've experienced so far. When you first see one, you're like, what the fuck?
Because it's so fast, too.
Yeah. And it's because it is a very it's a surprising thing. It is a plot twist that you, don't necessarily see coming.
Yeah, because when you start, it's very like U.S. Marines, this alien thing happens, so it makes sense that aliens start coming. And then, I don't know how far into the game, but the Spec Ops show up to, try and shut shit down even more than the Marines are. And they're so fast.
Yeah.
They're stylish, though. I'll give them that. And then we also were in any video game when there's water and you have to go underwater, we are both very uncomfortable.
Yeah, the fish.
The demonic, alien fish that was terrifying and not easy to kill and really comes head first for you, and you have to get in the water and deal with it.
Mm-hmm. And there's only a few weapons that work underwater.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're one of the best enemies in the game because of that.
They're terrifying.
There's just a primal fear of something in the water coming at you. Mm-hmm. And I know Gordon is really, really fast underwater, but he feels slow because he's even faster on land.
Our boy's fast as fuck.
Yeah.
Just running circles around everyone else in this game.
Climbing a ladder.
So fast. like 8 steps at a time.
Ting, 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 ting.
And then I think the other enemy we had a real issue with, who is the final boss, is Nihilith?
Nihilith, I believe?
Nihilith.
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 Right?
Yeah.
No, there's another N in there.
N-I-H.
Nihilanth.
It's a big-ass baby.
Well, it's,
I mean...
its body is set up like a Vortigaunt's body or the triple arm, just like the big armored guy's body. Mm-hmm. And I believe it's the presence that controls most, if not all, of the Zen aliens. I think the head crabs are just kind of doing their
small
thing.
And dumb.
Yeah, but all the more sentient ones, I think, are controlled by Nihilith.
Yeah, we should talk about Zen. We haven't brought up Zen.
Yeah, we're cutting right to the end.
Sorry, I got focused on enemies.
Do you want to talk about how good the Black Mesa facility level designs are compared to how that just does not transition very well to... I guess it's because it's more like an organic...
Yeah.
There's a lot of slopes.
There's a lot of
floating platforms.
Yeah. It's not pretty. Like, I mean, neither is, like, necessarily Black Mesa. But
you've said that before, even while we were playing. I disagree. I think Zen is really, really visually interesting.
I think it has visually interesting things. There's these really cool plants that when you get near, they're like alive. Well, all plant, you know.
They're not plant. There's nothing really plant-like there. Everything feels really animal. The quote-unquote plant thing that you're thinking of is this, like, it almost looks like the lure of an anglerfish.
Yeah, and then when you get close, it gets, like, nervous, and it goes down, and
it sucks down into itself and hides.
And it stops showing its light.
Yeah.
And then you fight a big, like, one of, I guess, 3 of them, or a 3-headed version of them. These big, spiky, again, they look like plants, but they're clearly, like, more animal-esque, I guess.
They almost look like eels with beaks.
Yes. No eyes, though. No facial features.
Their faces are shaped
like
as if they have facial features.
But there's no texture for it, right?
But there's no... Well, it's almost like there's a divot there. Mm-hmm. We can, let's pull up what they're called.
Yep.
So we paused really quick there to look up what this creature is called, so that we could tell you to Google this creature. It's just called Tentacle. So just look up Half-Life Blast Pit Tentacle. I think it's great monster design.
It is great monster design.
And great animation. I love the way it moves. I love that it taps things with
like
the tip of its beak thing.
Yeah. It's
completely blind.
Very visceral. Fear as well.
It can't see you at all.
No, it's all about sound. So, like, grenades are great and shit like that, to make it not pay attention to you.
And you can even throw the grenades down into the pit, and they'll
for the big one,
they'll kind of go back down for a second, and you'll have just a little bit of leeway to reposition and hide. And to get to all the places that you need to get to before you can kill that thing, you have to go through that central room with it multiple times. Mm-hmm. And that's such like a great little... it feels like a stealth segment mixed with like a survival horror segment. Just getting through that room is a great visceral feeling. Yeah,
I think this game does a lot of really visceral stuff really well. Like, just... It does give you the adrenaline rush when you're in, like, a firefight, or when you're, like, really afraid of a fish. And, like, it does all that really well.
More fish than firefight.
That's true. I mean, yeah. I guess when you're playing a first-person shooter against AI, you're never too worried.
No, not really. But if there's a fish, that shit's scary.
It's terrifying. Cannot deal with it. As far as design layout goes, especially in Black Mesa, I think it's a whole chapter, essentially, where you're on a monorail.
It's called On a Rail. That's the name of the chapter.
Smart. And I love that whole section so much because you control not the speed and the direction of the cart you're in on the monorail, and then you can, like, shoot signs every now and then to turn or go straight, and you encounter, like, different enemies and stuff like that.
To change little junctions, yeah.
Yeah, and... I don't know. It feels like you have the most control over kind of your destiny in that part of the game than you do anywhere else. Which I really liked. I liked that whole section a lot.
From what I've read, whenever I hear people talking about this game, On a Rail is very polarizing. Some people think, like, On a Rail is great. It's one of the more interesting things that Half-Life 1 does. It's very compelling. It keeps you... It's good momentum. It also, like, is kind of stressful at times because the thing is moving while you're looking around and trying to see it. And then there's other people that think it's the low point of... Like, right up there with Zen, the low point of the entire game.
Well, we know where I stand. What do you think?
I think...
You can be on the other side.
I don't think I'm fully on the other side, is the thing. I think it could be about half the length it is and still be quite good. I think it overstays its welcome, I guess. I don't like the mechanics enough to play it as long as you do.
Okay. I think if it was shorter, it would be less polarizing for people. Yeah. Because it is a full chapter of the game.
But for someone like you, where you really enjoy it, it probably was the perfect length.
Oh, no, I had a great time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was fine with it. It could have gone... Well, I think it was like the perfect length, yeah. And then for Black Mesa, it is very corridors and stuff like that.
But they never feel the same, and they never feel boring.
No. It's done really well. And then...
I wish I could vocalize what makes it so good, though.
We're not game designers.
Yeah. We're not game designers. We're not professional reviewers. It's hard to describe what makes Black Mesa so fun to just run down those hallways. Yeah.
It's just done incredibly well. And then, but Zen sucks, kind of. Like, Zen has... getting back to Zen.
Yeah.
Zen has things I think are charming and I like. The light thing, I like. There's a whole warehouse kind of section in Zen that is like...
Which I don't like.
I think is cool as fuck. Because it's giving these creatures more of a home, more of a world they live in than this weird open space that Zen is everywhere else.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's interesting conceptually. I just don't particularly like playing.
It didn't seem like a fun area to be playing it, but I didn't play it, did I?
No, but you still had to sit there and watch it.
Yeah, but I was interested enough in, like, the world around it, whereas Zen is not as visually interesting. It feels very, like, not muted, because I would say Black Mesa can be largely muted. It's that kind of, like, grayish white of a lot of government buildings. But, like, Zen is, like, muddy looking at times, almost.
It's brown.
It's very brown.
Brown is the main color.
I don't know. When we were playing the expansions, I was just like, maybe we won't go to Zen.
And you do.
You're doing both. Not as much, because they're shorter games.
Much less.
So I was happy for that. Although I was, like, kind of sad every time. For the first time in both games, I was like, we're here, huh?
Gameplay-wise, you want to touch on... Well, I guess you didn't play the game, so...
I did not.
Do you have any strong feelings about, like, the gunplay itself? Or not really, because you didn't play it?
I think probably not really, because I didn't play it. I think it looks like the guns feel really good to use. Like, they're
pretty fun.
Yeah.
I think it ages really well.
The shotgun's amazing. Shotguns are always my favorite in video games.
Shotgun's fun. The machine gun, the standard machine gun you have.
Let's talk about the best weapons in the game.
That's kind of where I wanted to transition to. All the weapons that are alive.
Yes. So the first one you get, what are they called? Do we have any?
Which ones are the first ones?
The first ones, I think, are the little alien.
The one that you hold. You hold it in your hand.
And it looks at you. It's got one eye. It's very cute. There's an animation where if you're holding it for long enough, you kind of go to, like, give it, like, a little itchy goo, and it's like, get away from it.
Tries to bite you. Yeah. And they function kind of like a little... They just kind of like what you would expect. You throw them out and they run towards whatever's closest and attack it.
But if there's nothing there...
if you are the closest one,
they just
immediately go after you.
They are not loyal.
Those are fun. Not useful.
Not very useful, though. Consistently, like, I think once or twice it worked out well for us.
They used kind of that same idea in 2 of, like, a living grenade weapon, and I'm very excited to see you experience that because it works really, really well in 2.
Oh, good. Because it was so exciting when we picked it up. We were like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, I think there's just 2 in the first game, is the hand, and it shoots out like little, almost like
Hornet
homing
things.
Yeah, hornet things that are like homing, kind of though, right?
Mm-hmm. They bounce off walls and they're homing. It's just not good.
I think it's better than the first one. It's better than the bug.
Yeah.
It's not good either, though.
The only good thing about that one is that it only holds 10 shots, but they reload themselves, and you have unlimited ammo.
Did we have to pick up more bugs?
No, they of the little bugs that you throw on the ground. Yeah.
Okay.
Those are finite.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
No, if those were infinite, we would just play the whole game just throwing those guys around corners. They will come back and
get you.
I don't care. It's worth it. And then both of the expansions introduce more living weapons. Were there any more in Half-Life 1 that we are forgetting?
I don't think so. Let's cover the expansions.
Yeah, first expansion is Opposing Force. It's as good as Half-Life 1 and better in some spots.
Came out in 1999, so about a year later.
Almost exactly a year later by Gearbox. And just knocks it completely out of the park.
Yeah, it uses the same engine and assets and stuff like that, and then adds on it.
Mm-hmm. You're playing the exact same time period that the original one is set, the same day, but you're playing it through
a U.S. Marine named Adrian Shepard,
which they just refer to as Shepard. Even in game, when he gets his little opening, it's A. Shepard.
But I had the Wikipedia.
And well, you start off as military, so like the weapon progression is way faster because you've already played the first game. You don't need to start with the pistol and the crowbar and work slowly from there. You immediately start getting shotguns and machine guns.
You also have a knife as opposed to just the crowbar to like bang boxes, and the knife is so much faster at breaking up in boxes to get stuff.
You actually have 2 melee weapons. You have a knife and you have a wrench.
But the knife is
knife is just faster at everything.
The knife is great. I missed the knife when we went and played Black Shift. When we went and played Blue Shift and we didn't have the knife, I was like, it's so much faster.
The knife isn't that much faster than the crowbar, but it is a bit faster. And there's a lot of box breaking in these games. So.
A lot. Which is fine and again, fun.
It also introduces new power weapons. Power weapon is a trope where it's an exceptionally powerful weapon with generally finite, limited resources for it. So, like, the gamma gun in the first one is finite. The rocket launcher, to some extent the grenades as well. You get even more of those. You get a sniper rifle, which is very, very fun.
So good.
You start with a Magnum or something with a laser sight that's like perfectly accurate if you have the laser sight turned on. That replaces the revolver from the first game. It's just like a straight up better version of the revolver.
Which makes sense.
And you start with it.
Which makes sense thematically as well. As obviously just like time going on. Blah, blah, blah.
You get an LMG, just a big fuck off machine gun.
Oh yeah. That was fun too.
Your living weapons are all consistently more fun. You even get an arm one, just like the Hornet one, except it fires straight shooting, fast moving projectiles.
That's the green one I love, right?
No, it shoots blue projectiles. You're thinking of the grenade launcher one.
The grenade launcher,
which is kind of like a woogly eel fish thing.
And you feed it these little green pellets that grow out of the Zen earth that is now in Black Mesa.
There's these little plant creatures that just sit there, and if you wait, they grow once. So you can get as much ammo as you want in those areas, and you feed it. The reload sound is ow, ow, ow.
And we love him.
It's so cool. It's just such a good idea.
And he's a good weapon in comparison.
It's a pretty good weapon. Yeah.
I mean,
it's got 2 fire modes. It's got one where it shoots directly out like a rocket launcher, and the other one where it shoots like a bouncy grenade launcher.
Oh yeah.
Pretty good, pretty useful. Not the best weapon or anything like that, but
better than one.
You get a bunch of ammo for it, and it's fun to use.
Tell me about the one you were talking about, the alien weapon with the blue.
The one that functions essentially like the Hornet launcher. that's about it. It has unlimited ammo. It only holds about 10 shots or 12 shots or something. I can't remember how much this one holds, but it just is a good weapon instead of a bad weapon. So you can just use it as much as you want because it recharges its own ammo. It's actually fun to use. So we used that a bunch, even though we had plenty of ammo for other stuff. That one's fun. You get a mobile barnacle. Like,
oh, yeah.
You have a barnacle that's unlatched from anything, and you can use it to grappling hook to stuff, which is a cool idea.
It didn't work great.
It is one of the few things that is done poorly in the game.
But we were super excited when we got it.
Yeah, and it still leads to some platforming that is more interesting than it would be without it.
Yeah, it makes certain levels more dynamic and vertical, but it only latches on to organic matter, so you can't just go from wall to wall to do whatever. You're not Spider-Man.
Which is an aspect of the barnacles that they totally forgot about in Half-Life 2.
Uh-oh.
Because you could throw barrels and stuff into the barnacles, and they'll pull them up and try to eat them and spit them out and stuff.
I have seen, like, some clips or something of Half-Life 2, and I do remember that now.
It's a really fun mechanic, and I'm glad they did it. It just
is incorrect.
It's just wrong. Breaks the canon.
My immersion is broken.
It completely broke. 0 out of 10 game. Feel like we got some other living weapons. We got our little boys back, the little running boys back.
Which we love, but we don't use. I guess, and then I think we should talk about Blue Shift, and then I think we should talk about the endings of all of them at the end.
Yeah.
So Blue Shift came out in 2001, so we got a whole 2-year gap.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was, it seems like, now I'm really projecting, it seems like everyone was really lit for Blue Shift because Opposing Force was so good. The
bar was set very, very high. Half-Life 1 was very good. Opposing Force was, in a lot of people's minds, even just a little bit better than Half-Life 1. And then here comes Blue Shift. It's set in the same time. It's another side story that goes along
Gearbox
with it.
again.
It's Gearbox again. It's a character that you know from Half-Life 1.
Barney Calhoun, who is a security guard at Black Mesa.
Yep.
So he is already there. So as opposed to Shepard, who will show up when the Marines show up to handle shit. So he's not there at the very, very beginning of 1. He wouldn't be.
The Resonance Cascade is the event.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
So, but Barney was there the whole time, and even in the opening, when you first get off your tram to go to the door's like jammed, and this also happens in Half-Life 1 at the beginning, where there's like issues with doors jamming and like things are all haywire, and you're waiting for this guy to get it open, and fucking Gordon Freeman goes by on his tram, and
which is a bizarre canon because I know it's the same voice actor that does Barney that gets you off the tram when you're playing as Gordon.
You're right.
So I guess that one's not actually
Barney? No.
Or maybe it's just conflicting canons.
It's fine.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, a lot of the scientists are
the same, like, 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, it's just the same few guys with the same voice actors. And it works just fine. It's only weird that in Half-Life 2, they all become characters.
Flushed out, really.
And that makes you think back, and you're like, hold on. Something's not adding.
Wait a minute. So he plays, like, whereas, like, Shepard is very gun-heavy and has all this
balls-to-the-wall action right off the bat.
Yeah, he's a Marine. He's here to handle shit. And then Barney is a security guard. He's kind of futzing around at the beginning. You go to, like, the shooting range. Nothing shitty has happened yet. Everything's kind of weird, but...
Well, just like in Half-Life 1, where you can just wander around the opening facility and press buttons on the microwave and fuck around.
Get a drink that comes actually out, but you can't pick it up from the vending machine.
Yeah, fuck around with the vending machines. Barney can essentially do the same stuff where he can go over the gun range and take a few shots if he likes and go see what people are up to.
And then the event happens and now we gotta be serious.
Yeah, and then things are already like malfunctioning a little bit, whatever.
But no one's like really worried. They're all just kind of, when technology doesn't work, you're all just annoyed.
Yep. Go fix an elevator for somebody. The elevator's finally going up. And then halfway up, the resonance cascade happens.
And it crashes.
Not even in this facility, over in the...
Yeah, because you're in Lambda.
I believe you're in the Lambda facility, and it happens over in the...
other one.
Whatever the other one is called. And shit immediately goes off the rails.
Yeah, like one guy gets electrocuted by like the wiring in the elevator, and then it falls, and then the other guy's like totally dead, and Barney's fine.
Yeah, you crawl out of the rubble. You're fine.
Let's talk about the armor real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Freeman has a
HEV suit.
HEV suit, and that really protects him. And like when he gets really hurt, it talks to you, and it's like, in fact, major fracture found. Like administering morphine.
Administering morphine. I love the sound effects with it. It's so good.
And then when you're Shepard, the Marine, you can use, there's like healing stuff on the wall for just your health, and then for like your suit. And as a Marine, you can use that, which doesn't make as much sense.
You have body armor, but you still recharge your body armor with the HEV suit station and stuff like that, power cells.
Which is weird.
Which is a bit odd, but...
So I guess maybe they thought, we shouldn't have done that or whatever, that's slightly off. So with Barney, he has body armor, and so you can't like heal that up because it's just like a literal vest, essentially. So when you find dead bodies of other security guards, you can pick up their vest.
And helmets.
And stuff, and that adds to your armor, which I think is an interesting way to handle it, because they are very different characters and playing different roles. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I like that.
It affects the pacing, or it ties in with the pacing as well, where Gordon Freeman's just kind of bizarrely good at everything.
Yeah.
And he gets an HEV suit, and all of a sudden he's Doom Guy. And from a gameplay perspective, that's fine and great. Mm-hmm. And then in Opposing Force, you play Shepard, and he's a highly trained military personnel.
Yeah.
So it makes complete sense that his stuff ramps up even faster than in one.
And that he is just good at all that shit.
And then in Blue Shift, they kind of take a step back, and they lower the pacing down, and they have you interact with a lot more scientists, a lot more other people that just work there.
Including a scientist that isn't in the base game or Opposing Force.
Because he doesn't work in the places that you go to.
But I still found it very interesting that was kind of the route they took, and I like that.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Rosenberg.
Yes, Dr. Rosenberg, who is like becomes a massive player for the rest of the game once you kind of get him.
Yep. He's
really like figuring out how to leave, essentially, because there's Marines and Spec Ops and aliens, and we should not be here.
Yeah, it's a lot of the scientists over the course of the first game and over the course of all the games come to the conclusion that leaving the normal way is not the way you're going to get out.
Yeah. I think in Half-Life, especially early on, you see when the Marines and stuff show up, they're like, oh, thank God, you're going to help us. And they just, like, kill them.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's upsetting, because they're here to clean up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the Spec Ops are here to actually clean up, I guess.
Well, the Spec Ops are the ones that are secretly bringing a nuclear device.
That's right,
to completely blow up the place.
Destroy it. I think the little, like, friends that you make, to quote-unquote, because they're not usually there very long, in each game are different, and I like that. I feel like Freeman has, like, the few scientists that he really works with, and there's, like, that trust and kind of camaraderie in some sense there. But it feels much more like you're alone when you're Freeman. And then when you're a Marine, whenever you run into another Marine, like, they're stoked to see you. They're helping you. They're lasering down doors. They're smoking cigarettes.
Well, there's 2 or 3 distinct guys as well. There's the generic Marines that every time you see them, that it's just like, hey, Shepard, what's up?
Yeah.
But there's also, like, the medical guy and the engineer guy that can blowtorch doors down.
Yeah. And they all have, like, personality, and that was really fun to see. Again, it makes you feel a little less alone in those moments.
Yeah.
And then with Barney, whenever you see another security guard, there's that sense, again, of camaraderie. And, like, one guy, like, is shot, but he's in the way of, like, a gate that you need to get through. And he's like, all right, hold on.
I was a little bit sad.
I know, yeah. One. He goes, hold on, I think I can move. And he kind of gets up, moves enough out of the way, and then just dies. It was very upsetting.
I was like, oh, man.
Because I feel like...
I thought that guy was going to make it.
I know. Or at least, like, be in critical condition when we left.
Yeah. I mean,
make
or
it.
At least, ambiguous.
But, because I think in Half-Life 1, you get some of that, where it's when shit really hits the fan, like, you do see people gun down, and you do kind of see that chaos. And then when you're the Marine, I don't really think you see a ton of, like, that, like, kind of violence. Not that
yeah, because you're the main antagonist of Opposing Force is the Spec Ops group that's coming in to clean up where your
You
teams failed to clean up.
Yeah. And the whole time you were Shepard, the Marines are all saying, like, we got to get out of here. Things are going badly. There's, like, radio things where they're telling you to leave and try and get out.
The whole second half of Opposing Force is just trying to get out of it. Just bail.
Just, nope. This didn't go well. We're going to go. And then I think the last thing I really want to talk about, last two things I want to talk about that are tied is the character G-Man and the endings.
Okay.
So G-Man is in all of the games.
Mm-hmm.
In 1, I feel like he's more heavily in 1.
Well,
1 is also just longer.
You only see him a few times that I would consider, like, non-Easter eggy.
Mm.
He just is this presence that's there all the time. And other than when he's, like, talking to scientists and talking directly to you.
Mm-hmm. He's just kind of watching from afar.
Yeah, and those are missable as well. We didn't see all of them, I'm sure. But we saw a good bit of them. And yeah, it's almost just intended to be a little Easter egg that ties the world together.
Yeah. So in 1, you see him kind of watching things from afar, and early on, I think, talking to the scientist. And then in Opposing Force, there's a part where you disarm a bomb.
The nuclear device.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then you leave and you go around a different area and you can see through, like, glass where that is. And G-Man is just there, like, reattaching shit.
Just fixing it.
And he just kind of looks at you and goes back to work.
The G-Man is just like a business guy. He's just like wearing a gray business suit and he carries a briefcase.
Yeah.
He's just a normal looking dude.
Who knows how to fix nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
No big deal. It's fine. So he's there largely to make things go a certain way. Mm-hmm. And then in Blue Shift, I think you see even less of him.
Well, that's because in Half-Life 1, he's monitoring Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
In Opposing Force, you find out he's also monitoring Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
And he determines what happens to both of those characters. In Blue Shift, he's not monitoring you because he doesn't care about you.
You're just a security guard.
And he doesn't end up
caring about you.
Care about you at all or impacting your outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the end, yeah. So that brings us to the endings. At the end...
Before that, really quick. When you see G-Man in Half-Life 1 and Opposing Force, he's always, like, looking at you, and then he goes on his way.
Mm-hmm.
The times that you see him in Blue Shift, he's just he's passing by or he's doing something else. He doesn't even look at you. No.
You are of no importance.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun.
Which is... Blue Shift does a lot of things right.
Yeah, I think we can agree that it's a letdown because it just doesn't hit the same way the other two do.
Mm-hmm.
And with the 2 years plus time, and it being Gearbox, which did Opposing Force so well, like, it just feels like a lesser game. It's
a step down.
It's a step down. But it's still more Half-Life.
But not for any, like, one concrete reason.
No, it's just subtly not as good. And when you're really hyped for something, that's going to be really upsetting.
Mm-hmm. But all these years later, it is more Half-Life 1.
And we never got 3, so...
You mean, yeah. we didn't even get the conclusion to Half-Life 2. It came out episodic. Oh, we can go into... Fuck that. We'll go into that later.
So that brings us to all the endings. In Blue Shift, I'm going to start with Blue... I'm going to kind of work my way back, I think, in time.
Okay.
In Blue Shift, you escape in an SUV with, like, 3 other scientists. You use...
Dr. Rosenberg's plan actually works successfully.
Claps for him.
Yeah. And you get 2 other scientists out.
Mm-hmm. And through this...
through the portal technology that they're working on.
Yeah. And they are able to kind of, like, send you through Zen to do a thing and rewire it so that you
essentially relay off of Zen back to Earth, but in a different place on Earth.
Outside of the facility, outside of Black Mesa, and we have an SUV.
Yeah, they just get in an SUV and they drive away. It's a perfectly satisfying, happy ending.
I like it.
They make it.
One of my favorite moments is when you first get there and they're, like, getting in the car, and one of the scientists is like, I don't know if he's actually cutting the chains or what he's doing, but he's, like, having to open the gate. And in my mind, he just has a bolt cutter for some reason. And he's just like, we're fucking leaving.
No, he has a crowbar.
He does have a crowbar because we're like, ha ha ha.
The iconic crowbar.
Yes. That red and silver crowbar. And so that's just a happy ending.
Yeah.
And then a less happy ending. Shepard gets, like, contained. I don't know what's the word.
Essentially, G-Man pulls him aside into
another version of
Zen
the tram.
pocket dimension Zen thing. And
no, is that an airplane?
I think it's the helicopter from the opening.
Yeah, I think so too.
But he pulls him aside and essentially says to him that, like, you remind me a lot of myself, so I've petitioned to not have you killed. But also we can't just let you go. So he just...
But you're not good enough to, like, hire.
Yeah. So he just drops him off somewhere in Zen or something. It's a place... He describes it as a place where he will be perfectly safe for the rest of his life.
But, like, also alone, I'm assuming.
Probably not a good time.
You have said that Shepard does not, like, ever show up again?
Not to my knowledge, unless there's, like, a...
Easter egg or
Easter
something.
egg somewhere, yeah. To my knowledge, I think he's just gone.
I want to petition that we get a Shepard game that continues his story. Wouldn't that be interesting?
But what if it's 80 hours of him just being stuck in that place and you never find your way out?
Survival horror?
No horror.
That's horror. That's existential horror.
Existential horror. Back to the review.
And then the original ending of Half-Life 1 is G-Man pulls Gordon aside in the tram now. Mm-hmm. And again, in like a pockety dimension where you're seeing the kind of different dimensions go
Somewhere
by.
in Zen.
Yeah.
I think.
And he's like, essentially, we want to hire you. Or I'll kill you.
Yeah. We found you to be very useful for certain things. You have the option of joining us or fighting a fight that you will never ever win. And you actually get to choose whether to go through the portal and end the game. And it says Gordon status hired or something like that. Or you just don't go through the portal and eventually he's like, all right. And he just teleports into a room with 1 million guys.
Which, yeah, like, and they're Zen. They're aliens, right?
Yeah, 1 million aliens.
Yeah. I wanted to fight him or him to kill you. I wish he didn't send you away.
No, I think he's a more compelling character because you would have you never have any idea what he is or what he's capable of.
Or what he even, like, or what the shadow company he works for, or, like, what he even knows, how he knows things.
Because it appears to be above Nihilants, above the Zen people, above anybody in Black Mesa.
Above, like, the government of, like, our country or the world in any way.
Yeah, above any human government.
Yeah, so, I mean, because they clearly have some kind of technology that, like, no one else
It's an interesting character. Unfortunately, they never capitalize on it because they decided to stop making Half-Life games.
We're fine. We're not upset. No one even cares about these games. No one even wanted more.
You don't get to be upset until you play Half-Life 1 and then Episode 1 and 2, and then it ends on a cliffhanger, and then you don't get anything.
I have also beloved things that ended on cliffhangers.
I know. But you don't get to be mad about Half-Life until you play some Half-Life.
Fair. So I think we should rate. Do we want to rate them separately or as one?
I think they should be rated independently, especially since some of them are not even made by the same company.
True. All right. So let's start with Half-Life. Half-Life 1. Mm-hmm. Base game. What do you rate?
8. It's a nice 8 out of 10.
I'm going to go with 8 too. Because, yeah, I'm going to go with 8 too.
Just solid, fun all the way through.
Good story.
Nice, good story. Told in a pretty compelling way.
Mm-hmm. And I had never been really spoiled for Half-Life, which you were very surprised about. Like, I didn't know we were going to Zen.
Yeah, which is insane.
I knew G-Man existed and kind of that he was like this weird shadowy figure, but I didn't know about Zen. Mm-hmm. So that was fun. And then for Opposing Force, 1 to 10.
Yeah, I don't think it quite makes it to like an 8.5, but I give it an 8, between an 8 and an 8.5. Slightly better, but not even half a point better. Just slightly better for me.
I think I'm giving it an 8. I think if it was a standalone game, whereas like if Half-Life wasn't connected, it really would lose stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see that.
You need that context.
It's meant to be played after a while.
Oh, of course. But some games are like spiritual successors, or even if they are like actual sequels, you don't really need to play the first one. I feel like if you're going to play Opposing Force or Blue Shift, you really should have played Half-Life first.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you rate Blue Shift?
It's like a 7.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement. It just is slightly not as good, but it's not bad.
7 is still a good score.
7's still a very good score. Very respectable. And I think that's our review. At some point, we'll play Half-Life 2. We're going to take a slight break to do some other games in between.
Yeah.
To not spam you with Half-Life.
How dare you?
I know.
How dare you?
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Welcome back to
A Couple Review.
Today we're going to talk about The Haunting of Bly Manor. Ooh, spooky.
Happy Halloween.
It's definitely going to be after Halloween. This
Oh,
comes
it's
up.
absolutely going to be after Halloween. Not just after Halloween, it's going to be like
December.
February.
So The Haunting of Bly Manor came out on Netflix. It's a Netflix original. It came out on October 9th of 2020.
Just in time for holiday season.
Well, the horror
Halloween season.
It is considered the second part of the Haunting, quote unquote, anthology. And the first one of that is The Haunting of Hill House, which we also watched and really enjoyed.
Yes.
When that came out.
It didn't need to be called The Haunting of Hill House, because that's already a book that exists.
It's based very loosely off.
It's not even remotely based on it. If by based on it you mean they took the names and literally nothing else.
Well...
You read the book too, right?
No, I haven't read Haunting of Hill House.
Oh, sorry. I thought you had. Shirley Jackson.
Shirley Jackson is a beloved author to both of us.
Yeah. To most people, it seems.
Well, yeah, but if you don't know who Shirley Jackson is, you should read her stuff. She's fantastic.
Yeah. And that didn't devalue the show. It's just a bizarre choice to call it that for no reason. Like, when I say literally nothing to do with it, I mean literally, other than it's like a ghost story in a mansion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they literally just took the character names and made a completely different story out of it, which is fun. They made a good story.
But you don't need to do that.
Anyway.
I think they learned, the show creators, the showrunners, I think they learned from that, and people's probably reaction being similar to yours, who are fans of the book, because The Haunting of Bly Manor is loosely based off of all of Henry James's work, but particularly The Turn of the Screw, which I read, but I read it a long time ago.
I haven't read it, so I can't comment it, but I assume it would be akin to them calling it The Turn of the Screw and then just having this story.
I'm assuming it is.
Yeah.
Very loosely is how they phrase it. I remember,
But whatever, that's
correctly.
neither here nor there.
Yeah. It is getting generally positive reviews. It has a 62
out of 100.
What do you mean,
generally positive?
Oh, I know. It should be 100% positive.
How dare you?
It's a 62 out of 100 on Metacritic.
That's pretty low.
Right? For how good it is?
Even for Metacritic, that's quite low.
Well, I don't know how much... We are recording this on the 22nd of October. I don't know how much buzz or reviews this is getting. So that might be part of why it's not so high. Or maybe people have, issues that you and I don't. I didn't read them. I just got the number. So some of the actors from Hill House return for Bly Manor, but they are not the same characters at all. Some of them, I don't think I could have...
Some of them vastly different.
Vastly different. And, I think maybe one or two of them, when I saw them, I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't necessarily remember that they were in Hill House.
I didn't recognize any of them.
I recognized one that I really love. I'm a big fan of... I'm going to fuck up her name, though. Of Carla Gugino? Gugino. She is Olivia...
In Hill House, is she the mom?
Yeah, she's the mom in Hill House, and then she's Jamie, older Jamie, / the storyteller. But she's also Sally Jupiter in Watchmen, the mom.
Oh, that's where
she's in a bunch of stuff. She's in Gerald's Game. She's fantastic.
I did not recognize that she was Jupiter when I saw her in Hill House. Mm-hmm. But I did. But
when she was aged.
Yeah, when she was aged up, I did. Because she was aged up in the Watchmen as well.
Yeah, especially the end part of Watchmen.
Yeah. Obviously just the end. She wasn't aged up the whole time. Because a lot of it was...
Flashbacks.
Yeah.
So she's returning. We also have Victoria Pedreth, who played Nell, the adult Nell in Hill House and Danny really our main character in Bly Manor.
Yeah. And,
Different hair color.
And even looking at the two characters next to each other, just changing the hair
color and style. Color, she's...
Cannot tell it's the same one.
Beautiful. And also... oh, no, I did the thing.
I can cut it out.
No.
Fucking... You're sexist.
You don't have to cut it out. Because I have it to say for other women, too. Should I disclaim it in the podcast if I'm going to keep it in?
I don't care.
Okay,
I'll just keep it in if you want me to.
No, you don't have to. As it flows. Nell and Danny are, like, super different characters, though, because Nell is, like, well, dead. And creepy and, like, dark. And
creepy?
Well, she has some moments when she's the background. She's very scary.
Yeah.
And she has almost like a The Ring-esque kind of hairstyle and vibe at times. And then Danny is like nothing like that. She's like very warm and afraid. The opening scene with her, she has this really thick Southern accent that never comes back.
Yeah, it's like she really tried to be quite Southern in in some of the scenes.
In that first scene, really.
And really just gave up on it for the rest of the show.
He's like, do you want tea? And she's like, I'm used to it coming in a pitcher with lemon wedges and ice cubes.
And then they just never again.
They just bring up that she's like, cannot make British tea throughout the whole show. Whenever she's like, I'll make tea. They're like, no, thanks. And that's it. But no more accent. We also have Oliver Jackson Cohen, who played Luke, adult Luke, in Hill House, who is the twin to Nell, and Peter Quint in Bly Manor. And
he looks pretty much the same in the two, but like it's a complete turnaround of character.
Yeah.
Like he even has a different accent.
Yeah. He's very like wannabe posh, complete sociopath in Bly Manor. And in Hill House, he's an addict who's like very struggling and has like just this giant heart.
Mm-hmm.
He's very handsome.
He's got like a strong like Scottish-Irish accent.
Yeah. Like working class Irish, or whatever is what he's supposed to be, I think.
I can never tell because like
we're American.
Even within Ireland, there's like distinct accents.
Oh, same in like England, just like in America.
Yeah.
I mean, America's much bigger.
Yeah.
Still.
Well, just like every country, but like.
Yeah.
I would be interested to know, first of all, which one is his normal accent.
Oh yeah.
I assume it's American, but I just don't know.
Whenever we see like an interview with someone who we've only known them with an accent. And then they talk with a different accent.
Hugh Lowry.
One of the guys in, I think, Midsummer is, like, really British in real life.
Oh, yeah?
And it was really jarring when I first saw an interview with him. We also have Henry Thomas returning. He was Hugh Crane, like the younger adult Hugh Crane in Hill House. And now he's Henry Wingrave in Bly Manor, and that's the uncle. Mm. Fun fact about Henry Thomas, he played Elliot in E.T. It was like his breakout role. He was the little kid. Very cute.
I don't even know what the kid in E.T. looks like.
First of all,
I haven't seen E.T. since I was like a wee little boy.
I haven't seen E.T. since I was like 10, but I still feel like I could recognize little Elliot in any moment. Just like I could recognize little Drew Barrymore.
I don't think I liked E.T. when I was a kid.
Oh, I loved E.T.
And that's actually kind of a common thing, not to go too much off on a tangent, but I've heard that a lot, is that a lot of kids didn't like E.T. and or were scared of E.T. I was not afraid of E.T., but a lot of kids were afraid of E.T. because it's a scary little alien.
No, he's so charming. He's dressed up.
Yeah, but he's like a little poop gremlin.
That doesn't mean he's evil.
No, but...
Or scary.
He's scary looking.
I think if I saw E.T. outside of that movie as just like a character in like a store, like a Halloween store or something, I'd be like, oh! But like with context, very cute.
If there was a horror movie and a character turned around and saw E.T. in a hallway without any context, you'd shit your pants.
Well, yeah, because that's unexpected. So, anyway. I feel like Henry Thomas now must have just like the most fatherly face because both his characters are fathers.
And he looks exactly the same, and I still didn't recognize him.
No.
Because I just don't remember people's faces.
No. And we have Kate Siegel as the last returning actress. She played Theo in Hill House, who I adored immediately. and she played Viola Willoughby / Lady of the Lake in Bly Manor.
Mm-hmm.
And she's fantastic. And then we have we have 4 kind of quote-unquote new, non-returning actors.
We have a bunch of new actors,
but like 4 of
the most important ones.
Mm-hmm. We have Amelia Eve as Jamie, who I immediately loved.
Mm-hmm, the groundskeeper.
Mm-hmm. We have Rahul Cole as Owen, who is like the chef of the house, and he's so charming.
How do you spell it?
Rahul. Rahul.
Huh? Interesting.
We have Tahira Sarif as Rebecca Jessel, who is the previous, like, teacher, keeper of the kids. Au pair, yes. She's also gorgeous. Distractingly so. And last, but our actual favorite.
Absolutely. Standout actress in the entire show.
If she does not get at least 1 award, I'm flipping tables.
Who was it that said that horror actors do not get awards?
I believe it was Trixie Mattel.
Yes.
Beloved drag queen and...
drag icon Trixie Mattel.
Yeah.
Horror actors do not get awards.
Because we don't take them seriously.
So I will not be surprised at all to see
she will
not get... She definitely won't.
I hope so. Hill House got a good amount of attention. I'm hoping Bly Manor...
Did it get awards?
I don't know. I don't know.
Did it get awards?
Tania Miller, who plays Hannah Gross, who is, again... our absolute favorite character.
Far and above the best acted character.
And everyone is a great actor.
Yeah. The chef, I don't remember anybody's name from shows ever. I'm so bad at it. Mm-hmm. But the chef, Owen was really, really good as well. There's
a whole episode, we're still pre-spoilers. There's a whole episode that is essentially just focused on Hannah. And she has several scenes with Owen, just them.
It's also the best episode in the show.
Exactly. And their scenes, anytime they're together, they are so charming. It is the most beautiful, lovely comfort of, like, the flirting, but you're really comfortable. You're not, like, trying to get someone necessarily.
I think that's why I thought of them back to back, because, like, their scenes together are the best scenes in the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. I'm sure there are plans for season 3 for the anthology. I really want them both back. I really want her back. I need to see her more. Mm-hmm. We might have to just look up whatever else she's been in and go watch her. Mm-hmm. She's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then I think I want to make one little last note before we go into full spoiler territory. And that is just an interesting little thing, which is that filming wrapped like a month before quarantine hit.
Ooh, perfect timing.
Yeah, so I'm very grateful of that timing, because this was a perfect October show.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the show's fantastic for any time. You and I watch horror all year round. But it was really lovely. I feel like
it'll get more eyes because it came out in October.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it also was one of those things that Netflix, because they published it, they pushed it on their front page. So that always helps, I think, get viewers.
Yeah, that I'm sure it does.
Also, they pushed it on their Queen to Watch little mini series on the Netflix YouTube with Trixie Mattel and Katya.
What kind of numbers does that series pull? Because it's very well produced, and it looks like it is pretty popular.
Everything that Netflix I've seen produce on their channel is very well produced. I would bet that it gets very good numbers, because they have a massive following. They have a New York Times bestseller book that just came out, teaching women how to be women. So yeah, I would be shocked if that show didn't really pull in great numbers for them. I mean, I basically only watch that on there, and I'm not subscribed.
Don't even smash that motherfucking like button?
Oh, I smashed the like button.
Okay.
But I don't subscribe to Netflix because I don't want to see all the other shit.
Don't even comment and subscribe.
YouTube knows that I am here for Katya and Trixie, and that's about it from Netflix. Okay, full spoilers. Y'all, this show is so good.
What do we want to touch on first?
I want to talk about the way this show starts as a very traditional kind of horror show. Mm-hmm. And then a little less than halfway through the show, it becomes just this incredible character-driven drama that just has, like, supernatural elements. Mm-hmm.
But this character-driven drama serves to explain everything supernatural and scary that you have seen up to that point. And one of my biggest pet peeves is never getting what I feel like is a good explanation for certain things. I'd like to rewatch it to see if there are any little niggles that I find.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I remember, I think everything adds up quite well.
Excluding, I would say.
Excluding what?
Lady of the Lake leaves within Danny. But we know that when Peter was in Rebecca, he couldn't leave the property, but clearly the later lady can. But we also know that that might be because the lady literally created that like atmosphere where no one could leave. So I think she could have always left.
I think the implication is that the Lady of the Lake is what keeps the other spirits there.
Yeah, because when she, like when Danny kills herself at the very end of the show, they all get to like be released.
And they never said that rule out loud to us, but I think it's one of those things where it's like, because this character has such a special place in the rules of
and that is very much made clear.
Yeah, that is made extremely clear that if she breaks any of the rules,
it's because she's in charge in a way that she's not in control of, but she is in charge. But no, I know that the way, and the show does revealing like secrets and characters and why things happened like this and why the kids are so fucking weird and the things they say in such a great way, but in a way that doesn't mean not everything gets explained in a way where it's like, oh, that's why that. It'll be like the episode with Hannah because we were early on, you and I were like, she doesn't eat anything. And we weren't even sure she was drinking stuff, but it did seem like she was.
Well, there's so much stuff that's laid out for you ahead of time. It's just the first time you meet Hannah, and she's just staring, like, off into space.
And she's like, oh, I was just away for a moment. But she was just murdered!
I was miles away. Yeah, and...
her body's in that well!
Yeah. Oh. It's just... everything comes back so beautifully.
It's so... chef's kiss.
I think this is a good transition into my favorite thing about the show, and that's how great the ghosts and ghost rules are handled.
Yeah. And I've never seen this. I've read it in books.
I'm all about suspension of disbelief, where suspension of disbelief needs to be earned, and when it's just posted on like flimsy, like, oh, it's a horror movie, it's a fantasy movie.
Flimsy logic or science always really bothers you.
Why are you looking into that stuff? It's just for funsies. Like, no, it's a work of fiction and it should have consistency. It should earn its suspension of disbelief. Like, you should start off giving whatever you're watching your suspended disbelief, but when it breaks that, it's like everything crumbles.
It's like trust with the viewer and the creator. It's like the moment you break that trust, you break that illusion. It's really hard to get it back.
Well, because you break the illusion that they have consistent rules about the way the universe works, and it instantly breaks the entire universe. You break one thing about the universe,
and suddenly everything's really flimsy. It's a house of cards.
Yeah, because so much, like, it's not the Silmarillion. It's not J.R.R. Tolkien where everything is written out in thousands of pages, you know?
And it doesn't need to be. No,
a lot of it you just trust is the way it is. But it is trust.
Yeah. And I think a really good, I mean, honestly, not even good, just a really, really competent, because you can be good and not be competent, but a good and competent writer, creator, storyteller won't ever make you lose that trust in them. They're never going to falter in a way that you should be able to see through the cracks.
But yeah, the ghost rules are so good. I don't even know where to start. Well, so the ghost rules are good, and then what all starts it is this one ghost, and it's now this like super vengeful spirit, and it does the vengeful spirit, like the mindless vengeful spirit trope. Some of the best I've ever seen done in media. I would say the best because it actually gives you a proper backstory. It gives you a whole episode that lays out the nature of this vengeful spirit. And it's a whole episode that is completely kind of separate because it's the precedent moment from the rest of the show. And you and I, neither of us complained at all. Like, we want to know what's going to happen to all our people, but this came and we were immediately into it enough and it was well done enough that, like, that was fine. One of the kind of classic ghost rules is that they can't leave the property. So that's I feel like that's very universally kind of acknowledged in a lot of ghost things. They can, some of them, at least the newer ghosts, because we know that there are very old ghosts who have been here for like hundreds of years. 100 years. Hundreds of years because it's the 1700s. Yes.
And the ghosts that have been there for a really long time, like, their faces are almost like they lost all their form. They're not them anymore. They've
lost their identity, and it's shown by they lose physically their faces.
So they just have that one feeling or that one thing that really made them tick or made them whatever. So the Lady of the Lakes is vengeance.
Mm-hmm. I mean, some of them don't even have that. They're just like, one of them is just miserable the way they died. Mm-hmm. And it just is there forever in the place that they died, just being on the ground miserable.
But so much time has passed that there's nothing.
Mm-hmm. And some of them don't really have a purpose, like the plague doctor.
Mm-hmm. He was just killed because he was in the way of the vengeful of the Lady of the Lake.
He's just kind of confused and bumbling around the house.
Yeah. I mean, because he doesn't know why he's there. He doesn't know why he was killed. There's no reason for him to have been murdered. Same with the little kid.
Yeah, and the kid still has some autonomy. Mm-hmm. He goes and he plays with the dollhouse and stuff like that. Who are some of the other ghosts stuck in the house? The older ghosts. Are there, other than the three, it's the sister, the plague doctor, the child.
And then there's the doctor or the priest.
The vicar.
The vicar or whatever. Like that, We're not Catholic. Who was killed, again, because he was just in the way. And that's how Peter gets killed. And when Peter gets killed, because he's just in the way of her, like, her...
He just bumps in?
Well, no, she has a routine. She wakes up.
Yeah, and she just bumps into him.
Yeah, he's in the way of her rotation. And so she just drags him and chokes him.
Yeah, she kills anybody that she bumps into.
And that moment is so shocking in the show, because it comes out of nowhere. There's no reason for her to attack him other than the fact that he's standing there. Mm-hmm. And it feels very convenient. But then everything so much, like, turns on that moment in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm.
And a lot about what makes a ghost be able to... It seems like within the show's ghost rules, they don't actually... There's not enough examples to really say this is true or not true. But it seems like it's willpower that makes a ghost be able to do stuff. And I love that, like... It's not even intentional willpower that makes Hannah stay. It's just, like... She's confused for a moment, and then she just, like, goes back to doing her job.
I am the housekeeper. I am the caretaker of this house and these children.
This is my house.
Yes.
Like, it is very much her thing.
Yeah.
So when she dies, she pretty much immediately goes back to caretaking the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so much so that nobody notices that she's any different or dead. Not even her.
No. The willpower thing also works in the sense that, like, the first time Peter finds out that he can kind of, like, slip into a corporeal body of someone is when he's trying to explain to Rebecca when he's dead and she's not. Like, trying to get her to understand something. And he, like, slips into her.
No, the very first time is with the son.
Oh, you're right. It's with Miles.
And it's by accident.
Yes. But it doesn't seem like he understands how it happens.
Or he doesn't really even seem to know that it did happen.
Mm-hmm. And then with Rebecca,
I think he
didn't know.
He doesn't know even after it happens because he's surprised that it happened
with Rebecca. Because then he can see him as in her body in the mirror, and he's like, "Oh, okay."
And that's another consistent ghost rule that is a major plot point of the show. Mm-hmm. Is that
when a ghost is in your body or spirit is in your body, you get they call it tucked away, and you, like, go through different memories the same way that these ghosts are stuck in different memories that are, like, important to them. So for, like, Flora, the little girl, it's often involving, like, her parents who are now dead. Mm-hmm. And one of my only, like, little, I wish we had this moment, is that when Peter's a ghost, we get a moment with his mom that's a memory that he's stuck into, he comes back to a lot.
He always gets tucked away into only one memory.
No, he has a couple with Rebecca.
I think those are Rebecca's memories.
Oh, maybe.
She goes into memories where he is also there, but I think that's always her memories.
Maybe.
I think he is always tucked away, or he's not tucked away, he fades away to always the same memory.
But Rebecca's are always with Peter, and she had a life before Peter. They're not childhood lovers or anything, and I wish we got more background on her because she's such a smart, strong-willed woman who we get, like, maybe a sentence of about her past, and I want to see it.
And I think it's because in the grand scheme of the show...
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you have limited time, and it's... I hate to say it's not important, but to the narrative, it's not important.
I get that.
And that one memory that Peter Quint is in is important to his motivations. Yeah.
Peter Quint is the most selfish piece of like a low-key abusive piece of garbage.
Yes. And not for no reason. Like, you understand why he is
That's
this way.
That's why that memory's important, yeah.
Yeah. Not just because of that memory, but for a lot of things.
But, like, that memory gives you, like, parts of his childhood, how he handles how his relationship is with his parents, you know, why money's so important.
It's almost justified, other than the fact that his actions are unjustifiable.
Yeah, like murder. Again, singing praises of Miss Gross, she immediately knows Peter is garbage the moment she meets him. And she's not dead yet. But he kills her. I don't think do you ever get when they meet? I think yes, you do, because he drives the mom and dad back from something, and it's like the first time.
That's not the first time they meet.
The first time he meets Hannah, I think it is.
Is it?
It feels like it is.
Oh, I just assumed they'd already known each other for a while, because there's just that awkward silence. They don't introduce, just awkward silence, and she's like, "You'll take these bags up, right?"
He's like, "Uh-huh."
Mm-hmm.
She hates him immediately, and she's so right. Like, she catches him stealing, and she's like, "You know the thing about being a caretaker is I know where everything fucking is because I clean it. I know where things go. And now they're gone."
Mm-hmm.
She's so good. She's so good. Peter's so selfish. Peter is the reason almost everything bad happens. Excluding Lady of the Lake stuff. Peter kills Rebecca.
Yeah.
Peter kills Hannah.
Yeah, no, for the current time storyline. Yeah,
Peter is trying to essentially...
He's the major motivator for...
He's trying to get the kids to, like, essentially give up their bodies to him and Rebecca and, like, them be, quote-unquote, tucked away forever.
Yeah, the idea is permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, and in that process, he was going to kill Danny.
Yeah, which is such... That... The show does have some little problems, and that's one of them, is that, like, it seems like they would have been characters that would plan out things well.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they did it, like, they could have gone away with their plan without Danny ever knowing, and then she would be none the wiser, and they would just be in those bodies forever and be totally fine. The fact that they even had to, like, involve Danny in that way, and then... Yeah.
Well, didn't Danny see something? Isn't that why they had to involve her?
Nothing that they couldn't just explain away. Like,
true,
explain away.
I mean, she's seen a lot of shit at that point already that was able to be, like, mentally explained away.
Yeah, I mean,
because she saw Jessel in Flora's bedroom.
Yeah, but...
Still.
Who cares? Like, you saw somebody that is, like, provably dead in somebody's bedroom. Like,
yeah.
Jessel is dead and buried and provenly so.
Yeah, and then she's seen Peter Quint, but she doesn't know necessarily that he is Peter Quint. She can kind of assume it from stuff she learns later. But, like, no one else has seen Peter, which makes it sound like she's crazy. And that would be easy to prove.
Yeah, these are complete non-issues. If they're in the kids and they just in the kids, they could just, when Danny moves on with her life, which they could make happen very quickly, it's just a non-issue.
I think...
They jeopardized their whole plan with this one dumb thing.
I think my argument for thinking why they maybe did that is that they don't have time to plan because they're fading away more and more, and they're constantly being, like, they're either in those bodies or they're being pushed and faded away into memories, it seems like, constantly. So it's like, how do you deal with all of that when you don't have any time? You don't have, you don't have those minutes when you're up late at night or any time to think,
All it would take is one small scene or small moment to indicate that either of them realize that they've made a mistake because of the fact that they're fading away to make that shitty plot point not shitty anymore.
I think I disagree because as they're trying to, like, get the plan where they're going to take over Miles and Flora, they both get pulled away.
No, not during the planning. During the moment that they're doing
the moment, though.
But they've already captured Danny.
No, but I'm saying I think that might be in a way to shorten the narrative of the time of having to be on screen, is showing that like they're constantly being pulled away, and so there's like they're just fighting time.
Yes, but no. I disagree.
That's fine. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying I can work my way around that where it doesn't bother me.
Yes, I could see how you could stretch really hard to make that make sense.
Really hard,
but I don't think that that's a stretch that's really intended that you make, and I don't think that's. I just don't have a solution.
That's fine. I think I also want to talk about the idea of loss in this series, and how it affects people, but we never get to see anyone really properly deal with it in any long form way.
Like they don't get closure,
or like not enough time passes, or not enough attention gets. So like Flora and Danny's parents die in India, so they can't see them because they didn't die on the ground, so they can't come back. They see them when they get like tucked away, quote unquote, in memories. But
that's just the memory of them.
Yeah, and that clearly isn't enough, especially for Flora, because we see her go back where she's like, yeah, but I was younger, I was smaller when this happened. I know that this is just a memory, and you're not here. But they lose their parents, and they don't know how to be apart from each other now, which I think is probably a pretty normal reaction when you're a kid and you lose your parents. I have no idea. I haven't had that happen. I'm an only child with both parents. But yeah, he goes to boarding school, and the first day there, he has a letter from his sister that says, just come home. Mm-hmm. And he does everything in his power to do it. But we also kind of get hints that Peter was with Miles then, or like talking to him somehow. Yes, because remember, he kills the bird, the pet bird of one of his teachers while there. And later Peter's talking to Miles about it, how like that wasn't a fun thing, that was unpleasant, but you had to do it to get back here to Flora. Which maybe just means that he knows about it, but it also feels like...
He just knows about it.
I don't know.
Peter can't leave.
I know Peter can't leave. But I'm saying that is, like, one of the other, like, tiny cracks that I could kind of point to.
Yeah. I think that's a much smaller crack in the story.
In my mind, it's bigger.
Like, all he would have to do is, like, hear the story once.
Mm-hmm. But who would have told him? I guess Miles.
Miles, because they talk a lot.
Yeah. Miles also clearly really looks up to Peter. Mm-hmm. Which means that, like, when he's just acting like Peter, because he, like, looks up to Peter, or is Peter inside of him taking over at those moments? Like, when he gives flowers to Danny, I think that's Miles. But then, like, later when he's, like, when Hannah sees him, like, lighting up a cigarette.
When he's peeping in the room, and he gives her the butterfly brooch, which one is that?
I think that's Miles.
I think it might be as well, but it's really hard to tell.
But then, like, later he's like, has Peter's, like, dad's lighter, and he's like, packs
when he's outside smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, I know, but I just love that Hannah's like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, smoking a fag in the afternoon, and she's like, what? And so we have that loss. We have, like, Danny's loss and the trauma of that, of, like, losing someone...
in, like, the way that would make you feel the
most responsible.
The most guilty when you have literally nothing to do with their death.
Yeah. And also, like, no one knew that they were breaking up in that moment. And so, like, you can't tell them, right? Mm-hmm. You can never tell anyone.
It's that guilt that makes you, like...
lose your mind.
Yeah, but also the circumstances make you very isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of... Yeah, the show is just... almost exclusively done fantastically.
And the way, I mean, and like on the very periphery, we have Owen loses his mom who had dementia, and who he like, they always were like, hey, stay longer or stay the night, blah, 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 at the house. And he was like, no, I have to go take care of my mom. And like the one night he stays over because the kids are having issues or whatever, his mom dies. And like, that's a level of guilt that he'll never get over, or like 2 days in a row, whatever. And like, he came back to Bly to take care of his mom. Mm-hmm. From France.
He came back to the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have, like, again, we have, like, the loss of the lady in the lake, like, her sickness and how her family handles the loss of her, and how she handles, like, the loss of, like, being able to be a person, like, a parent.
Her entire life.
Yeah, her being able to be, like, a wife and a mother. And then, with that loss, like, how do you handle it? Do you handle it with, like, rage? Which is, like, how Lady Lake handles it, which is obviously not the best. Do you handle it with, like, kind of more proper healing mourning time of things, which is like Owen handles it. I mean, he gets drunk, but like That's pretty normal.
Not by himself in a dark room or something.
Yeah, he's doing a very...
He's hanging out with people.
Yeah, he's having a very normal, healthy way of coping. And then, like, Danny's way of coping with that loss is to just, like, run away from it. And it seems like the kids' way of loss is handling it is almost to not acknowledge it at all. They don't almost ever talk about their parents.
Yeah, I mean, they do, but I think the idea is just losing a person or your parents or anything as a child, everything's so different when you're a child that I don't think they could be expected to handle it or even experience it like an adult.
Yeah, I guess the most they kind of say, I think it's Flora at one point. She's like, they're not coming back home.
Yeah, the realization. Then, yeah.
I kind of want to talk about how the way that Danny handles... Danny's character is essentially there to be like the healer in a way, right? It's not her character's main purpose early on, but it becomes her character's final purpose because she saves Flora from being murdered by Lady of the Lake and takes the Lady of the Lake inside of herself and like carries that burden. And she carries it
for a lot of years. For
years. We don't get like a definite number, but I would say it's probably close to 10 or something.
I think it's 10-ish years. Yeah. That's what I got as well.
And early on, that's, like, very difficult, and it seems like the lady kind of fades, and then she'll come back a little bit, and then she'll fade, and then Danny's breaking point is she has a dream that she's, like, choking Jamie underwater, and she wakes up with her hand on Jamie's, like, about to choke Jamie, and then she's like, I gotta go.
Just immediately goes back to Bly and dies in the lake.
Yeah, and that, really, like, sets everything free, and the kids don't remember any of, like, the nightmare stuff, which is, like, that's the best thing that could happen. But I think the way they handle the fear that Danny has and the way that, like, I'm going to equate...
And this is all final episode stuff.
Yes.
Like post-action final episode stuff.
I think the way... I'm going to equate having, like, Lady of the Lake Insider to essentially mental illness, and I don't know if that's necessarily an allegory they want to make, but I'm going to do that.
No, it's definitely what they want. This is not a unique
Oh, I don't think
assumption.
I'm special. But, where it's like... I mean, you and I have depression. It's like most of the time I'm fine. I might get like a little down for a few minutes, but I'm fine. But like then there's times where like I can't get out of bed. You know what I mean? Like, and I think the way they handle that as far as like the mental illness allegory is so fantastic because it's a long...
Pretty good, except for the fact that the knowledge that it will claim her eventually is maybe not what you want to be.
That's not a great finale moment for
and the
mental illness.
Well, the knowledge is always that it will from the very beginning. You know that it will claim her eventually. Yeah. So probably not a perfect mental illness allegory, but...
No, but I also think that if... I don't know. But yeah, no. But yeah, it definitely falls apart at the very end, but I also think, like, as far as that character arc and what had to happen with the Lady of the Lake, like, that had to happen. For the story, not for the allegory.
I kind of have to talk about Henry Wingrave's thing. While I like it a lot, it allows very good acting to happen during it, and I actually like... Everything about it, other than the fact that it doesn't fit into the rules the show's set up, and it doesn't really make sense, is his, like, the physical manifestation of his guilt, of the ghostly him, the him that enjoys all the shitty things that he's done in his life, and, like, all of his mistakes.
And, like, revels in it.
Yeah. It's so good.
Good.
It doesn't make sense, and
I think in a different thing where you're not already dealing with ghosts of people, it is a great way to show that guilt and a part of alcoholism and stuff like that. But when you have a show where people look like the people like what they did before they died, walking around.
I think that's exactly exactly where I was trying to go with that. I think
because when it first happened, I'm sure we were both like, "Is he dead? He's not on Bly."
I didn't think about that. I immediately knew that it was a manifestation of his guilt, but in a show that also has ghosts
that look like people, just the same style that his character, his other character looks.
It confuses the
ghost rules,
the imagery. It confuses the metaphor almost.
I think I'm completely with you where it is so well done. It is so good that I'm not mad at it, but
it's great in every single way except for the fact that it is bad.
It does not, well, it's not bad. It doesn't serve the story the way it should. Like, the way they handle it doesn't serve the story well.
Yeah, it doesn't serve the story at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it is really good.
Yeah.
I do like it a lot.
I really like it. And then he, when he nearly dies, like, he's like...
No, he does die.
Well, he dies really briefly. And Hannah's there, and he's like, when Owen finds my body, like, all this stuff. It's so heartbreaking. And of course he lives, and, like, that's... So he can take care of the kids, and that's fantastic. Like, that's what needs to happen. That's what the best outcome is.
Overall, the show has almost a happy ending. All things considered, the happiest ending that you can...
For everyone who lives, it's a happy ending for, I mean, excluding Jamie to some extent and Danny. Like, they get to have happy years, but then Danny has to kill herself, and then Jamie clearly is just waiting to see her ghost or hope for something like that to happen to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not the happiest ending, but even then, there's like a little tinge of happiness where she goes and tries to get claimed by the Lady of the Lake, but since Danny is with the Lady of the Lake forever now...
She would never hurt anyone, particularly not Jamie.
Especially would not take Jamie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a really beautiful little moment.
Mm-hmm. And the way, circling back to the way you handle loss and grief, Jamie handles it, again, in a really great way. Like, she doesn't get over... You don't need to get over losing someone. Mm-hmm. But you can't stop living. And so we kind of get the idea that she got to...
Can we talk about old Jamie and the frame story?
Yeah.
It's weird, right?
I like it in the sense that at the end you're like, oh, these were all the characters who are alive now and they're older and Flora's, the one getting married and all of this stuff. That's a very sweet moment. But it feels very much like... I like that at the end you get to see that all these people are the characters now, like, as time has passed and the bride is Flora.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. It's just the rest of the frame story thing is just odd. It's not bad. Mm-hmm. I just thought that was, like, the weirdest, most, like, out of place, stilted part of the show. It's just odd.
I don't disagree, but I also, like, the writing for her voiceover as telling the story is so really lovely. The way she talks and the way she tells the story, and that form of storytelling throughout the show is important, and we learn a lot from that.
The fact that there's a narrator is good. The fact that it's Jamie, in a lot of ways, she's telling it almost to disguise the fact that it's her. Mm-hmm. The narrator almost seems like it shouldn't be her.
And also the narrator's, like, omniscient. But, like, she wouldn't know Hannah's getting, like, stuck in the memories, or Peter getting stuck in the memories.
I'd have to look at the exact lines that the narrator has and what it is implied that the narrator knows versus what is being shown to you.
I believe, but at least for Hannah, she definitely seems to know. Whereas for Peter, I don't know.
It's kind of being implied that the whole show is the story that the narrator's telling.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's weird.
I don't mind it because I always feel like I like frame stories in the sense that I love a deeper dive into shit like that.
I like them. I just think that they're usually bad and take away from the story.
Yeah, no, I like them for a lot of reasons, but I do often think they're not needed.
I like a lot of things that are bad.
Oh yeah, no, we don't have great taste consistently.
Yeah, we got shit taste. Why are you even listening to this? Speaking of shit taste, so what would you rate it overall?
I think I'm going to give it like an 8.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
It's really good. I really enjoyed it. I'd watch it again. I'm kind of interested to watch at least the first few episodes again, knowing the ending.
It's one of those things that would be good to watch again. I don't personally really like rewatching things that much.
Yeah. I might do it in the background or something while I'm, like, working. Check it out. It's on Netflix.
Check it out.
As always, you can subscribe to the channel, give this episode a like. It helps us out. And leave a comment. Bye.
Bye.